I'm the founder and CEO of Square Circle. At Square Circle, we've made a conscious decision to focus on belonging in the workplace.
And hi, I'm Robin Eckersley. I'm the Chief Learning Officer at Square Circle, and I also wear a hat as a coach here at Square Circle, and I focus around self-empowerment, motivation, and mindset setting.
So welcome back to season 1 of Square Circle's Belong series. And in this series, we feature conversations with thought leaders and pioneers in the areas of diversity, inclusion, belonging, social justice from all over the world. And today, I'm very excited to introduce to you two very special people all the way from Australia. So welcome to Sandy Golder and Steph Wicks.
Hello.
Hi, and we're excited because they're going to be sharing their perspectives and work around creating a support system and sense of belonging for parents and caregivers of special needs kids. So let me tell you a little bit more about Sandy and Steph. So Sandy is a proud mom to two beautiful kids, Imogen and Cooper. Imogen is on the autism spectrum and has ADHD and anxiety. And Sandy herself was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in recent years. But yet she inspires others while telling her story of how she's learned to tap into her grit. Now, Sandy's a passionate health and special needs advocate dedicated to helping people live their best lives while reaching and exceeding their goals. She's a mentor, a personal development and wellness coach, and a seasoned motivational speaker. Now, Steph is a mom to two little girls, Imogen and Charlotte. Now, Charlotte falls in the spectrum and also has dyspraxia, a speech and coordination disorder. And as the digital arm of the tribe, Steph heads up all the tech parts of their business as well as facilitating coaching. Now, she's also an advocate for educating women on the importance of surrounding ourselves with a tribe. We hear you, Steph. And also finding a place where a brave place isn't necessary. She believes that women can find somewhere where they can grow and learn from one another to develop their resilience. The community will get you through the darkest days. We will be stronger together, is what Steph says. And with that, Steph and Sandy, welcome. I just want to, before we get into the whole interview, I just want to commend you on setting the foundation for this conversation by being so open and honest with your personal experiences as well as what you're facing as moms of kids with special needs. So thank you for that, because so often, more often than not, we get to hear of how everything is great, everything is this, and, there's always an upward trajectory of how someone's life is portrayed, especially, in media and in our content that we see every day. So I want to start off by saying how much we appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability, and we're so excited, looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. It is really important to us that we show up in an authentic way online, because otherwise it doesn't cut through all the, glitz and glamour that's out there, I suppose. Absolutely. So, for us to show what's the real story behind the story, I think is really important.
Yeah, and along those lines, guys, before we even get into the questioning, how are both of you and your families doing in these COVID times? How are you faring?
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride. Like, I think everyone's kind of just finding their way through. Personally, like, I find some days I'm really good, and other days are just really difficult at the moment, and that's kind of to be expected. And we're just managing. I'm finding with me, it's all just really about my kids at the moment. I'm wanting to make sure that they're, they're taken care of and their emotional needs are met and they can get back to normal. And in the midst, just the juggling of businesses and life and friendships and family is there. But we're doing our best, and that's really all we can do.
I've actually found it, I don't want to say enjoyable, because there's so many people that are, really struggling right now. But I looked at this situation as a really unique way to spend more time, like quality time together, which I've found that, the world is so busy and everyone always has so much on their schedule. To be forced to actually slow down there's so much beauty to be found in that. So I've just found myself just trying to focus on those bits. We've had some challenges, like Imogen, my daughter, didn't cope so well with school holidays, with all the changes to her routine. So thank goodness her school has been opened, most of the time being an essential service here. My son has started off really well, but this week we have decided to send him back to school because his mental health just wasn't coping. And, I spoke to his teacher for about half an hour this morning, and she was saying how common it is for, kids just to, they've just been thrown, all the rules have been thrown out the window for them. So it's I feel like a bit of a juggler trying to keep all the balls in the air, just doing our best to do that. But I do think there is so much beauty that we can take from the situation, and it can be a better viewpoint just to focus on that. And I know that might be a glass half full thing.
You have to. And I think it's also maybe because it's simplified life a little bit for the time being. So it's just stripped away all of this stuff, been forced to slow down, which has been really weird from a mindset perspective. But there are some really beautiful things to be found in that when all of the other stuff is stripped away. And the funny thing is, just as Sandy was saying about her son, my little girl, Imi, who's neurotypical, has actually been most affected by this situation because she's just wanting her life, like this friends and her life back. So we just have to make decisions based on what's best for our families and our individual situations at the moment. So,
yeah. Oh man, I love the point that it's almost like the noise is stripped away, the busyness is stripped away, and even though there's obviously something happening all the time, and there is the juggling happening, that it sounds like what's being juggled is perhaps clearer or more cut to the quality of what matters most and the priorities.
Totally.
Yeah. So let's set a foundation for our conversation. Parents and caregivers of children with special needs face a pretty unique set of day-to-day routines and challenges, even before COVID-19. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was that drove you to form Thrive Tribe & Co., and what kind of support that you and your organization offer?
Sure. You want me to take that one? Yeah. So it was in August of 2018. I sat in my office after reading an email that Imogen School had actually sent us, and it was a link to an article around the fatality statistics affecting parents of children with autism. And I was devastated reading it. Like, it was like heart disease was like 150% more likely to die of heart disease, 40% more likely to die of cancer, and 200% more likely to die of misadventure. So including things like homicide, suicide, and accidents. And I just was like, this is not okay. Like, I don't feel okay with this. And no one was talking about it. So I literally sat in front of my computer and did a Facebook Live and talked about the statistics. And I got quite emotional in that video because it's quite personal, really. And the video went like viral online. So, and I had people messaging me through Facebook, and they're like, that's me, I'm suffering this and this, I don't know how to change this, I don't know what to do, this is what my life's like. But like, there needs to be more support around self-care for parents, because it's all, and it should be the support there for the children, obviously, because they have additional needs that we need to look after. But there didn't seem to be as much or any resources that I could find supporting the parents. So that's where Thrive Tribe & Co. was born. It was literally out of this video that went nuts. And I just thought there has to be something more. And online is such a great tool that we can use to reach so many. And as parents of kids with additional needs, often we can't get out and access. So whilst there was local community groups and things going on, sometimes we can't get out. Like, sometimes we can't go, we don't have anyone to look after the kids, or, so providing that space online. But also, I didn't want it just to be about surviving. Like, there's all this, let's just get through the day, like, let's just get through the week and get to the other side. We're not meant to live like that. We're meant to thrive. And I'm really passionate about teaching people the skills to do that, so they can have the life that they envision rather than settling. So I didn't see why special needs parents should be any different. Like, why can't everybody thrive? So that was sort of where it all began.
Yeah. And then we met at a networking group, and I had just been told that our little girl was like red flags for autism. So it was the very beginning of this situation, and I was crumbling inside. Like, there was no resources. I couldn't find any like meetups for parents or anything. And then separately went to this business meeting, and Sandy was the first one in the room, and I sat down and we clicked, and she said, got talking, I have a little girl with autism. And I went, oh my God. Like, it was just, and I think the thing for me in that moment was that here is someone who is doing life, like sitting upright with her coffee in hand, in business, doing her thing. Like, this is not the end of the world. This is just like a process that I have to go through. And then from there, Sandy was like, I've got this idea. This is what I want to do.
You're missing out a really fun part of the story.
Okay, you tell us.
So she had a really bad experience at a gymnastics session with the girls. And we didn't know each other. Like, we literally just met. And I said what I'd said. And then she burst into tears and told me about what had happened at the gymnastics.
Yeah.
And
I was still quite fragile at that point. So it was like something small that had happened, and it triggered me off. And
And then I was just like, I have this idea.
Yeah.
We need to do this.
Yeah. And I was just like, I'm in. Like, and then, like, just we didn't know each other. But then it's just like this amazing thing happened. And it's like 2 years later now.
Meant to be.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know, the phrase necessity is the mother of invention sounds like, you know, a combination of that and, you know, fate bringing you two together. So what is it that the type of services and type of support that Thrive Tribe and Co offers, you know, for moms who are looking for something, for caregivers who are looking for something, what is it that they can expect when they come across you?
So look, we started by developing a program that was a 12-month process, so people could opt in, and get resources for personal development and growth. We have a community page where people can just join and connect and learn from one another. And over the first 12 months, we had quite a lot of it was a big learning curve. So whilst our community grew, we also had realized what people needed. So now we have, one-on-one coaching available. We offer retreats, and we offer a series of 28-day projects. So now that is basically what we do. We're currently running Connect Me, which is perfect for the times because we're trying to, help people learn how to reconnect with other people and themselves and rebuild relationships. Zen Me was a great one that we did at the beginning of the year, and they just run throughout the course of 12 months. So it's been really well received by our community. We had a Byron Bay retreat planned for September. Fingers crossed that can all go ahead. And we also ran a retreat in November last year. So there's a lot happening. But basically, I think what we've realised is that we want to be able to offer resources for everyone. So not everyone will be at a point where they're ready to work on themselves. Mm-hmm. So if they just need to connect and, meet up with other people and share their week or their struggles or whatever, we've got, online meetups and flip it sessions that are free to access, midweek for our members as well. So we just want to support them everywhere we can.
Yeah, I think the online stuff, it's actually been great in this space to expand that way because we were doing face-to-face meetups and walking groups and in all different states here in Australia. But the online space seems to be more accessible for parents. So we're finding that that's been a really great addition that we will continue on with. Our 12-month program, as Steph said, what we found was some people love it. Some people are like, right, I want to commit to this and every fortnight I want a new topic. But then we found for some people, they can't see 12 months. So they can only see this much. So the 28-day projects are like jam-packed with stuff every single day rather than spreading stuff out. And we tried to highlight the main topics that we know that, like us, because we're in that same demographic, struggle with. So, stress management, resilience, like how to be a more resilient version of yourself, enhancing relationships. We've got one that's coming up with the happiness project type. We haven't named it that.
Finding joy.
No, we're still in the process of naming them. But if you have a good one around happiness, throw it at us.
Yeah.
But we're finding that these 28 days are really great to dig their teeth into, but not too long. And they have the support and coaching, like group coaching along the way, which has been really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationships that are forming through those projects, the friendships are really special, because I think that's a big part. It's very isolating as a parent of a child with special needs. So being able to connect with people who truly understand you and what you're going through is such an important factor.
We also have a series of ambassadors nationwide in Australia. So they have just become so important to our business. And I love it, because it's not just us anymore. We've got these women who are just all in and so inspirational in themselves. So it's really exciting to see what the future holds.
I think I love how you've sort of created these programs so intentionally, like to meet a person wherever they're at. So whether they just want basic connection, or they want to develop further, you sort of have something for everyone, meet them where they're at. What I'm curious about is a couple of things. One, I think you started talking about this pandemic has obviously shaken everybody, right? We've just sort of redefined how we're going to work together in such a drastic way. And I think you'd started to say that you were thinking more of virtual offerings because of that. That was number one. I was curious a little bit more about that. And the second thing I was curious is in terms of your reach. Why aren't you global, or are you global? We need you. I think every community, every country needs Thrive. So do you have any plans to expand globally, and what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, our big plan is to be global. So I think, being that we're in Australia, it has grown faster here. We do have some members in the UK, and we have actually one of our ladies who tunes into our calls from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So
no way.
slowly getting out there, but I think it's an awareness. It's more like, we'd love your help to expand in different areas, because that's always been our goal. There's families all across the world that need care and to learn how to thrive. So I think it's just been trying to get the message out there.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's something we've said from the beginning. I remember her saying to me when we didn't even have a name yet, and we were like, what do we want this to look like? She's like, I want this to go global. I want the world, like, everyone needs this. So hopefully we've found our legs, and we can spread the word.
I also believe, though, that things unravel in a way for a reason. So maybe before we weren't ready to be global, even though we had that vision that we would like to be, whereas things have adapted now. And I think, as Steph said, we sort of found our feet, so we know exactly where we're going and what we can offer, and the value that we provide. So now is a perfect time to sort of expand into different areas.
And also, just quickly, before COVID-19, we're always invested in our tribe and do our best to show up there all the time, but life gets busy. So we got caught up in doing the business side of the business, and then it's kind of regrounded us, to show up more online with our people once or twice a week as a bare minimum, and just show up and have a conversation. And it's not even, a lot of it isn't even coaching. It's just saying hi and joining in a conversation. And I think that's what our people need more than ever, like always, but it's brought us back to what's important, like everything else in life. And I am certain that ethos will carry on even when COVID-19 is long gone, it's a good thing. So yeah,
valuable insight, isn't it? You're so right. We are entrepreneurs as well, and there's so many times we just get caught up in the business and of things that we forget why we started doing this in the first place.
100%.
So that's beautiful. I have one more question about your programming, and I was just curious. when you look at your community and tribe, do you see both parents show up? Do you see mostly moms show up? How are you seeing this community sort of evolving, or do you require that both parents show up? Because caregiving, especially for a special needs child, is a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
How is your community sort of comprised?
So I'll take that one. So it's a lot of the parents that are in our group are mums, and I believe the reason for that is that the divorce rate in marriages of children with special needs is very high. So from what I've read, it's around 80%. So it's much higher than normal because of stresses that are placed on relationships due to, having a child that needs that extra care. So and this is generalizing, I'm not saying it's like everybody, but a lot of the time the mums take on that primary caregiver role. So I think that's why the majority of our community is female. However, we do have a couple of dads who are joining into the group, and they're actually awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Like they're contributing a whole different dynamic, which is really great. So we're not exclusively for mums. Like, we welcome any dads that want to join. It just seems to be we do attract mum, being that we're mums. I think we attract.
I think that happened organically at the beginning. We didn't want to isolate, dads from that. Like, our husbands specifically are all in dads, and they're supportive, and, they've said themselves they would love a community like that to support them as well. But it's hard when, you're outnumbered.
Well, and I think we can relate to mums because we're mums. So it's hard for us to relate to dads because we're not a dad, and they have a whole different, emotional thing going on, and how men show up in the world is often different to females. So I sort of look at it like this is our expertise. Maybe along the line we get our men to take on their expertise, but
we've spoken about that before. It might be in the works, but
we think that maybe starting with a couples retreat or a couples program might be a great way to sort of bring partners into the program
and make it about them as a team and how they then approach their relationship and working with their child, as opposed to just people. But we'll see.
Because they probably don't want women telling them how to be dads. Exactly. We can teach them how to work together.
I think it's also hard for men a lot of the time to feel open to talk about that experience. So maybe we thought, like, if we can gain the trust of our women within the tribe, then they might, encourage their husbands or their partners to join in, and we go from there. So it's definitely in the works in our thought process.
You ask really good questions, by the way.
Yeah.
It's something we've
talk about, right?
I know, there's just, I feel like we could talk to you for hours. You've mentioned how as a parent it can be a super isolating experience. And then also the concern around not wanting to isolate dads. And something that we have kind of a parallel mission around is creating a sense of belonging. Square Circle's work generally focuses on creating a sense of belonging in the workplace for women. And you guys are creating a beautiful space of belonging for parents of kids with special needs. So, we're passionate about that sense of belonging. But from your perspective, I'm super curious about what it is about having that conviction that you belong somewhere. Like, what is so powerful about that in your community?
I think, just drawing from my own experience, I remember taking it back to when Charlie was first going through the process, and I remember crying uncontrollably after a really bad situation where we were out, and I was with my mum, and she was hugging me, and she is my number one supporter. She was there to make sure, like, always there, but it wasn't enough in that moment. I'm like, you don't understand, even though she's Charlie's grandmother, like, it wasn't enough. I'm like, I need no one. I felt like the loneliest person in the world. Like, no one understands, when it's really not the case. I'm sure that in a room filled with people, there would be quite a few people who understand what I'm going through. It's just, in that moment. So I suppose a way to connect online first and know that you're not alone, and to share those experiences takes that weight off in a way that just no one could really know unless they're walking in these shoes. So
it's funny, everyone wants to help, like everyone is so like out in my circle of friends, they all want to help, they don't know how to help, but they want to help. And often you'll get bits of advice from that space where they really want to help, but that you can tell from the advice they just literally have no understanding of the stuff that's going on. Like, I'll give you a really simple example. So Imogen is a very, very fussy eater. Like, if she could just live on McDonald's chicken nuggets and fries, that would be her, favorite thing, right? So to get her to eat anything normal, like with us as a family, is near impossible. And I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, just plate up her dinner, and if she doesn't eat it, don't give her anything for dinner until she eats what's on her plate. And I'm like, I can understand where that comes from, because that's advice that I've heard before, but she will literally starve herself and then climb the pantry like an out of control crazed animal to get herself food when she's like hangry. So it's not as simple sometimes, and I think it's hard to understand unless you go through it from day to day. Even my parents, like, they actually help a lot with Imogen, and they still like, we don't know all the stuff that goes on. So knowing that you have people who have your back, but also who have ideas that can help, and it's not always the same ideas. Some of the advice that I'll give to you won't suit Charlie, but someone else might have an idea from the page. It's like this, having this, I call it a brains trust, where you can, like, it's like a wealth of information. And because we've got people like, so Steph's recently had Charlie diagnosed, Imogen was diagnosed when she was 2.5, she's now 9. We have members like Tanya, who's one of our ambassadors. Her daughter is grown up. She's a young adult now. So we have all these experiences that we can draw upon and use to help navigate like this crazy, I like to call it a crazy adventure. But it's invaluable to have that information and to have that sense of belonging. And even if they don't have the answer, they know how to respond in a compassionate way and give something constructive.
Yeah, it sounds like the power of empathy is just invaluable in this situation. And I like that you talked about the wealth of information, because as you go global, oh my gosh, like all the parents and families around the world who can use this community's just experience and curiosity, even, having the courage to ask the question, I imagine is just in and of itself valuable to folks who are just like, I don't know what to do here. But in the lines of supporting you guys and your work and your growth as you expand, is there anything that either parents of neurotypical kids or adults without kids can do to support your work and to help you guys, move forward and create those amazing ripple effects?
That's a really great question.
In a, like, not towards our business, but just in a more like community-based sense, I think leaving judgments at the door, because you actually, like, no one knows what's going on behind closed doors or what's happened in the lead up to, it might be a child having a meltdown in a shopping centre, or, like anything along those lines. I can't tell you how many times I've got dirty looks or snide comments from people who think that it's poor parenting or that Imogen's just naughty. I actually had an old man at a shopping centre once offer, I didn't hear, thank goodness, because I was dealing with Imogen, but he said to my mum, he offered his walking stick to smack her with because she was having a meltdown. Yeah. And my mum said to him, oh no, she's got autism. She's just not coping at the moment. He goes, I don't care what she's got, and shoved the stick at my mum again. So this is this type of stuff that parents have to deal with on a daily basis. Whereas if you just walked up and said, are you okay? That would mean so much more to people. So just having that compassion that you don't know what's happened today and how much it's taken for that child to get out the door or put on a pair of shoes. Makes me emotional.
Yeah, well, that's, I think for me, it's the number one skill that I've had to learn throughout this process is that resilience muscle. And this woman here and building this tribe has been that mentor for me and teaching me that skill and building that muscle and it starts with letting go of what people think. Because what they think of me isn't, I don't have any control of that. I can only control what matters. And in that moment, it's my daughter, but it still hurts. And people don't know what it takes. Like we'll go to a birthday party, for which Charlie's really excited to go to and wants to be part of, but they don't know the anxiety and the planning that has gone into getting her to that point. It's taken maybe 3 hours of work to get her to a point where she can get out of the car. And and because she's quite high functioning, from our perspective, they see just your standard kid. So when she randomly has a meltdown, it's like, what's wrong with her? So there's a lot of, I suppose I've had to learn advocacy as well, like being strong enough to stand up and kind of say, well, actually, in a constructive way, actually, this is actually what's going on. I've had to do with teachers. Like she only wears gumboots every day. And this one teacher was like, Charlie, you've got to stop wearing gumboots. They look ridiculous, like tongue in cheek. But I had to say, I felt it like at first I was like, don't say anything. She doesn't know better. And then I'm like, no, people need to be told as well, like in a constructive way. Actually, she has a sensory processing disorder. So those boots make her feel grounded. They make her feel safe. They make her feel comfortable. She's 4. And I printed out information. I made like a sheet, gave it to the school.
But she was really appreciative of that.
They were like, oh, we actually had, like, we didn't know the ins and outs of that as part of autism. Thank you. And they decided to send their staff on to learn more about that. So in some situations, it can be really constructive.
Maybe we should do a community awareness program.
Maybe, because, it's a big part of it in helping people constructively understand. So, yeah.
I suppose in terms of like expanding through our Tribe & Co, though, any awareness that we can have out in your local community or part of the world is so valuable to us. It just helps us to reach more people. So, I don't know anyone who doesn't know someone who has a family member or a child or a friend with someone with additional needs. And that doesn't need to be autism. It can be cerebral palsy or diabetes or like literally any special additional need. So, everybody is welcome in our community. And we called it Thrive Tribe & Co because the co is community. So we have people from different organisations who want to learn more about disability in our group, who are, accessing that as part of our tribe. So, anyone who really wants to learn more or to increase their awareness is always welcome. But getting the word out, I suppose, is our number one.
And also, I think just, we are a solutions-based community, and that has always been the case. Like, I think there's a big thing as a stigma, especially within a lot of Facebook groups, especially mums' Facebook groups. There's a high level of like bitchiness and trolling, and we literally just don't tolerate it within the group. It's very rare, but it's very rare that it comes up, which is great. And when it does, we act on it very quickly because this is just a place where we can offer solutions in a constructive way, or support each other through a difficult situation, and it's that simple. So yeah, it's good.
That's amazing. I know if you do decide to move forward with the community awareness aspect, if there's like an online version of that.
Oh, that's how we have to.
Yeah, that would be so. I know, like, our networks would be so excited to just learn more, right? Because for me, I'm not a parent, and but a lot of my friends are, and they have kids with special needs, and I want to make sure that, for example, I am showing up in a way that is most supportive for them, and I feel like there's just a lot of folks who want to get involved, kind of like you said, they want to help, but they're not quite sure where to start.
Exactly. And it can be so variable as well. Like, I know my sister-in-law is amazing. My Emmy likes to eat the birthday cake before the birthday cake has happened. So like she goes to the extent of having 2 cakes so that Amy can do her thing, because we've tried with keeping her away and she's magic and finds it. And then we had a lady from our group whose son can't deal with balloons. So any party is off limits. So when we had an event not long ago, before all the COVID crazy, we had put up that there'll be balloons. She's like, I can't come because of balloons. We're like, all right, we won't have balloons.
She was like, oh, I wouldn't want to.
She was so grateful that we adapted. Just like, it wasn't big. It was like, cool, we don't have to get balloons. But for her, she was like, you don't understand what that means for you to make that adaptation. So, just even asking what would help make them feel more comfortable in this environment is so helpful.
Yeah, and I just have one more question, from what just came up here. To what extent is basically privacy and confidentiality a challenge? Because sometimes, I imagine more families are a bit more private about, what's happening, what's going on with their kids and whatever their challenges are. So, how has that kind of come up in I guess your experiences or other parents that you support in the tribe?
I think people share as much or as little as they feel comfortable with. It's a private group, so the posts don't get shared or anything outside of the group, which I think is helpful. I know a lot of people, and I try and reach out to a few a day just to meet them, and a few of them have said, I've been watching for a really long time but haven't felt confident enough to post, and then they finally will, and then you'll see their name pop up a little bit more. So the group has there's a few thousand in there now, the private group. So and a lot just watch, which is fine. It doesn't matter. You can participate as much or as little and share as much or as little as you see fit.
And we also know, we've got our Connect group, so of 3,500 in there, and there's close to 7,000 now on our main business page. But we also have our Tribe Hub, so that's for people who have invested or participated in our programs now or in the past. So we've got more of it's a smaller group, and there might be things that they feel more comfortable sharing in that smaller group with people that they've already kind of had that relationship with previously, and that's cool too. So that's it's their choice what they feel they want to share and don't share. So
it's just, I think what you ladies said is just so much. I don't think this hour is even going to do this justice. I was just curious. I wanted to switch perspectives for a second and talk about the kids themselves and what their experience is like, and how you as parents are still raising them to be these young, amazing kids, and teaching them all the whatever they need to know in order to sort of thrive in the society as well. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us what your kids, how they're dealing, what are some of the things that they are challenged with that perhaps people are just so take for granted, right, in this world, and you as moms having to raise them and teach them to be who they are.
I think for us, communication is such a it's our main focus. So Imogen was quite non-verbal up until a few years ago. She now says a few words. She mostly requests, so she can say chocolate and nuggets and ice cream and very well.
The important words.
They are. However, expressing needs and wants, I suppose wants she can express, but needs is quite difficult, particularly when her emotions get dysregulated. So we find that challenges with communication cause a lot of behaviour issues. Yeah. So, finding different ways to communicate is a big focus for us. So I was very hesitant when she was younger to start using, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but visual communication tools. So they're basically like pictures to communicate. I was quite hesitant because I was so focused on verbal language. I just thought that's what she had to speak. She had to speak, or she's not going to be able to be successful. Using visual communication tools is like a different language to her. It's like I was speaking Chinese, but she was speaking English. So then as soon as we started implementing the visual, she was like, oh, like I'd be going, it's time for a bath, Imogen, Imogen, get in the bath, Imogen, get in the bath.
It's incredible.
It's time for a bath. I'd take her and show her the actual bath, and she would still be like, ah, and then I'd get a visual and be like, you know, it's bath time, and she'd go, oh, and she'd go and like get dressed, and it's just like, that's like magic, right? So for me, like your question is gem-packed with things that I could unravel. Yeah. But understanding that they just think different. Like it's not, we need to adapt how we teach to how they learn, not try and make them fit in with how we think they should learn. I'm really blessed that Imogen goes to an amazing school called Giant Steps. They're a special autism school, and they are magical, these teachers. Like the ideas that they come up with and the strategies that they incorporate, they've taught us so much over the past 5 years. So, you know, it's trying to look at things from a whole different lens. It actually opens up a beautiful world when you start seeing things from their perspective. Like I watch Amy sometimes and she's like just fascinated with a bird flying overhead, or like she'll find something on the ground that's really interesting to her, or, you know, it's a really beautiful thing to see and to just watch and learn. I learn so much from her, like on a daily basis. So I think she actually teaches me a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think very similar along those lines, although our girls are quite different. A lot of things are very similar in the way that they learn. And what I really struggled with initially was she didn't talk for a long time. She was just so quiet. And she'd never ask me for anything. She wouldn't even communicate with me. Like it was like she was just in her own world. So we taught her sign language initially. And then as soon as we started teaching her signs, she was like, oh, more. Like it was a way for her to start that process. And we've had to just teach her simple things that people take for granted. I've had to teach her quite manually. So everything from how to ask for something, or how to kick a ball or jump or whatever. So, and we continue to work on them. But I think it's letting go of that, like that standard thing of, you know, go do this and this is the way they need to be done as a normal parent. And normal parent would, you know, structure things. And it's just about letting go of that and teaching them in a different way and being really patient. Gosh, have I learned that I have to be so much more patient and just wait it out. And normally if I can just be that little bit more patient, she comes around and does what she needs to do eventually. But I just have to allow her to do it on her own time.
I think it also teaches us a different way to view being a success in life.
Yeah.
Like I just view success as being happy and feeling fulfilled each day. So if Imogen and Cooper, either of them, both of them, just find something that lights them up and it contributes to the world, I will be a proud, very proud parent.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Don't apologize.
This is, I have to say, like, this
simplifies life. And I think, very much in the same thing. It's just, it brings you down to basics. So, you know, getting a little bit of insight into their world and what matters and what you love. And it's what everyone needs. Yeah. We're lucky enough to see that. And it doesn't mean it doesn't go without its hard days and moments and weeks and whatever, like lots of those, but it's worth it. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is, so if I put on my, you know, coach hat, this is resonating so much with, you know, neurotypical adults that I work with as clients. We're so confined to, you know, success has to look a certain way, or, you know, achievement has to look a certain way, learning something or growing something like a business or your career has to look a certain way. And the frustration and sense of guilt or disappointment that comes when it doesn't look that way is, you know, it's this extra pressure we put on ourselves to fit inside a box that we really don't need to be in the first place. And when you can let go of some of those restrictions, like the sense of peace, the weight being off your shoulders is, you know, so much more accessible. So, oh my gosh, I am so in love with the work that you do and the mission that you promote. Thank you so much for being here and for having this conversation with us. This has made my day. And I know this is
emotional Aussie on your call. Not all Aussies are emotional.
No, I mean, you know, we welcome that. We welcome that. Come as you are. And I know that our viewers are going to just be so much more, their perspectives will be so much more enhanced because of having tuned into this conversation. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great.
From my perspective, I'm so happy that your kids have found a place where they belong and they're thriving, and you as their moms are created this community where you're, you know, thriving and helping other people, you know, figure out their definition of success and thrive as well. So you're warriors in my book. And everything you've said in terms of what people can take back is just so precious. So thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate this conversation. We appreciate everything that you do. Know that you have 2 supporters here, whatever.
Thank you.
We're here for you.
Yeah, and we're going to be linking your Facebook group and your webpage and everything with this video and in the blog post that goes with it. So hopefully we can help build at least the American contingent across the pond here. So yeah, we wish you guys just, you know, health, happiness, and all the success